Hello everyone, hope you're getting on all right with this blues course. We've covered quite a lot, so it does take a while this to get in your playing, so don't worry if you're finding it a bit tricky, you know, give it some time. You won't learn it instantly. Now, so far we've got a few different things, lots of different concepts, but in terms of scales, we've got the pentatonic scale, we've got the blues scale, we've got major pentatonics, and we've got arpeggios now. So in this lesson, what we're going to try and do is kind of work out where we can use those scales. So for the most part, it's pretty easy. We can use them all over, everywhere on the blues. The only place it gets slightly different is the arpeggios, where you have to follow the chords around. That takes a bit more thought. So let's have a look at it. Now, this is a really important thing to learn. When I'm playing over these chords, I'm playing over this, which we learned earlier in the course. Now, all these scales that we're using, you know, the minor pentatonic, the blues scale, the major pentatonic, and the arpeggios are working because this is an open sound. What I mean by that is it's not major or minor, you see. This is a power chord. It doesn't have what we call a third in it. It's a root note and the fifth from the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, to make a minor or a major chord, you need to have what's called the third note from the scale, which in an A is major would be a C sharp, minor would be a C. Don't worry if you don't understand that. The point is that this chord isn't major or minor. So what does that mean for us as a soloist? Well, it's quite good, you see, because if it's not major or minor and you're playing this, you've got the choice of either playing a minor scale, minor pentatonic, or you could play major, that's major, or you've got the choice then of playing an arpeggio. So now the only thing with the arpeggios, as we talked about in that lesson, is that you have to follow the chords. So when I'm playing this in a blues, you know, if I'm going A, I can play A blues scale, play the relative major or minor over the top of that, and it doesn't matter. I'll give you a little demonstration in a minute. So when the chords change, it really doesn't matter. But when the chords do change, if you're using arpeggios, then of course you've got to change with the chords so it sounds melodic. All right. Now, the other thing about this is if you're playing a minor blues, say you're playing A minor and D minor and E minor, you can't use the relative major, and you can't use dominant 7 arpeggios. Why is that? Because the chords are telling you what to do. They kind of box you in, you know. So if you're playing an A7 chord, you've got a certain amount of scale choices. So it's an A7, so it's a major chord. So you could use major pentatonic. You could use minor. That shouldn't work, but it does in the blues because we're bending this C note to that C sharp, which is in the arpeggio, which is major. That does work. You can use the blues scale too. So that is very cool when you're playing the A7 chords. But of course, the thing is, if you're playing minor, you're really locked in. Then you can only play really a minor scale over the top of that, or minor arpeggios, which I'm not going to cover in this course, but I'll cover it in the Essential Rocks course. So, you know, the chords, if you obey the chords, A7, D7, you know, E7, they're kind of giving you ideas of what to do, really, you know. You can decide what scales to use from there. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play over a 12-bar blues. I'm not really going to improvise, all right? I'm just going to play over it a few times and just show you that when the chords change with these scales and arpeggios, how it kind of works, all right? So let's start with the pentatonic. That works great. Now it's a change here. Did you see I didn't change with the chords, I just played the same thing. Now let me play the blues scale. I'll play the blues scale without the changes. Here's a change. But I didn't change. Alright, now let's try the major pentatonic scale, round that cycle again, with no changes. Here's the change. So E, D. So I didn't change that whole time. Okay, there we go. So a lot of times there, you know, we were using the same scale, and when the chords changed behind it, we weren't following it, you know. And really, as a blues player, you can do that. A rock player, you can do that. All right, let's try again. I'll do kind of a similar thing, just maybe get a little more complicated, try some different positions, things like that. Okay, so let's start with pentatonic. Position shift. The chords are changing, but I'm not. But finishing on an A note. Okay, let's try major. That's good, still changing, but I'm not. Okay, let's try and mix everything together for this last one. So let's start with major. Minor. That was an arpeggio, E. Some arpeggios. Okay, so not so difficult that, but that is a really important thing to remember, that the chords lock you into something. One of the reasons, you know, these players that we love to listen to, like Joe Satriani and Steve Vai and all those guys, they play very interesting scales, don't they? And the reason for that is they don't really play full chords, because the minute you play a full chord, like major or minor, it locks you into a certain scale. And the reason they're able to do such interesting things is because they have the keyboard player just playing one note, which isn't major or minor, you see. And with that one note, they can decide, I can play a major scale, I can play a minor scale. They can play pretty much what they like, so it's really open to creativity. But if they, you know, they were playing a major chord, then pretty much you're locked into certain scales and certain modes with that. So obviously this is a bit further down the track, talking about this kind of stuff. We'll cover this, but in another course. But the thing is, for now, if you can understand the blues, everything has a basis on the blues. Rock does, you know, jazz does. So if you have an idea of soloing over these three chords, it stands you in great stead for everything else you do. So have some fun with that, and we'll get on to some licks.